they amplify, and then before we know it, it defines our character, our attitude, our behavior, and even our destiny. So I want to explore how, from little things, we can make them really good. We can really make them blossom in such a way that we bloom wherever we go. And I'll share some of my own personal experiences, what I've done, what I've achieved, and also what I'm working on. Everything starts with our consciousness. And I know that before I did meditation, I used to have a lot of bad habits. I remember when I was young, I started driving. I just passed. I was 17 years of age when I'd passed my driving test. And of course, when you've passed a driving test, you've been taught all the good things, how to drive, to observe the highway code. And then what happened was, little by little, using my own initiative, you could say, I drove it in a certain style. And when I got into a car, something dramatic happened. My whole character changed. It became very aggressive. I was like this person who had to be the fastest, the quickest on the road. And I remember traveling on the motorways. If you were in my way, I would flash my lights. Come on, get out of the way. It wasn't like that. So how did it happen? It must have started off in a very small way. And because I didn't pay attention to it, or rather, I just gave it that energy, it grew and grew. And of course, that brought out the very worst in me in terms of my character. I was, as I say, very short-fused, a little bit angry, when things don't happen, a lot of expectations. And I thought, something happens in life, a situation, an incident that becomes our teacher. And then we either change or we have no choice but to accept that change. And for me, as I said, a lot of habits that I had picked up, which I wasn't really pleased about, really changed overnight. And this happened when my own consciousness opened up, meaning for the first time I realized who I was. And in that awareness, suddenly my whole habits that I've been trying to sort of overcome just disappeared. I remember one of the things I used to do a lot was I used to enjoy the life of the Western style, so I did all what my friends did, going out, having a drink, socialize. And that was great. I enjoyed it. There's nothing wrong with that. But what happened was you tend to get influenced by the company you keep. So I picked up a lot of bad habits. They started off very slowly. So even, for instance, I started to use swear words in my language because my friends did it. And it was part of their persona. It was just very natural. And without realizing it, gradually, by listening to them, I started to become influenced by them. And suddenly, it was part of my language, part of my culture, you can say. Although I always felt uncomfortable with it, but it wasn't with everyone that I used these words. It was with the company that I kept. So when I started doing meditation, everything changed. I never thought that to change habits, I would say to myself, I'm a peaceful being, I'm a peaceful soul. People just say, oh, if I've got something that I want to change, I'm saying I'm not going to get angry. Or I'm not going to do this, I'm not going to do that. My experience has shown me it doesn't work. If you say to yourself, I'm never going to get angry, I guarantee that you will get angry. So when I had a sort of an experience what peace was, in that consciousness that I was, everything changed. It changed overnight, literally overnight. I gave up drink. Gave up the booze. I gave up meat. I became, suddenly all the things that I used to sort of chase stopped. And I thought, how is this possible? I never said to myself, I'm going to give up this, I'm going to renounce that. It just happened. Why? Because the experience I had was far greater than anything that I had experienced before. And that made me realize that what I was doing, it felt very easy and very natural. So when we pick up habits, it's really a lot to do with how people perceive us, how we want to be perceived by the world. For example, a lot of people in today's world have a lot of arrogance. They have a lot of ego. I am so-and-so. I deserve this. I have that. But what happens with that, there's a lot of baggage that comes with that. There's the arrogance. There's the ego of I'm better than you. It's always like you're putting people down. Or the opposite of that is you may feel I'm not good enough. And so what happens is you create a thought in yourself, I am superior to you. And then you start feeding into that thought. And as you feed into that thought, it's displayed in your tone of voice, in your actions. And as you repeat it again and again, before you know it, it becomes a habit. Then it's very difficult to shift that habit. So think about your own selves. What habits have you got now based on a certain identity that you have become attached to, or you think that that is you? If you have a habit based on that, you will find it extremely difficult to let go. You will find it extremely difficult to change. Even if you have understanding, even if you have information, you can go on to the internet and you can explore all of these things, but you won't change. You know why? Simply, you don't have the power. So in this equation, you need two things, knowledge and power, which equals success. So the knowledge is first, I need to understand who I am. To have the consciousness that I'm an actor playing a role instantly removes the attachment, because people are so attached. People are attached to their possessions, their relations, their situations, and even their physical body. Are you attached? I can hear someone nodding. So when you have attachment, what's controlling you? The one that you're attached to. So suddenly you have disempowered yourself and you have given empowerment to something that's external, which will now control you, how you feel internally. So suddenly your habits are being influenced by the role that you're playing. Whereas if you realize that you're the actor playing a role, suddenly you can switch off. And that's what happened to me some 28 years ago. So coming into the awareness who I am is the first step of shifting all of those bad habits. And that means I need to have determination. I need to have courage. I need to have faith. I need to have trust, all within myself. Because if I don't display those, at the first hurdle, I'm going to fall over. So I need to pay attention to myself. So this consciousness I want you to have, just say to yourself, I am a peaceful being. I am an actor playing a role. Because when I was with my father, I was, raised up in a very strong Asian family, very Indian background, very sort of a tight-knit family. And it was me living the expectations of my parents that they had within me. It wasn't me living my life. And so as a consequence, a lot of the habits that I had picked up was because of that, that influence that comes in. And of course, there was this part of me that wanted to rebel, that wanted to reject that. And I remember on one occasion, my dad had a sort of really bad habit of slurping his soup. We used to sit on the table in dinner and he would slurp his soup. And of course, he's my dad. I can't tell my Dad, stop doing that, because it was annoying me. But the more I was in that mode, the more I couldn't switch off from that thought. And then one day I just told my Dad, will you stop slurping? And of course, all that time I was sort of holding it, and then it just exploded. And in many ways it was good because it made me realize that I have to confront my own inner demons. And I had to apologize to my dad for my outburst. My dad was okay with it, but you can see sometimes we do develop sort of attitudes and habits because of the way we are raised, the way we are influenced. So one of the things that we need to do to break off any bad habits is to let go of attachment to anything, let go of expectations. Don't try to control others. I've been there, done that, got the t-shirt, it doesn't work. The more I try to control others, the less I actually have control. It's rather like chasing after your shadow. The moment you stop chasing, what happens? The shadow chases you. So let go of expectations. Just be your natural self. And that means the first awareness I need to have is I need to understand who I am. I'm an actor playing a role, but I'm not the role. Enjoy the role. You know, some people get so attached to their roles and that becomes their whole life story. You know, I'm a mother. I come home very happy because the children are very nice and loving to me. And my whole attitude is one of outpouring of love. You've been there? Any mothers here? No, there's a few. Oh, okay. So what happens is, and then the children grow up, and how does mum feel? She feels lonely. So the habit has changed because there's a shift in something inside themselves that they feel lonely. So they were taking happiness from the children. But how do the children feel? Whoopee, great, fantastic, freedom, huh? So on one hand, someone is happy and someone is sad. You see how habits are quickly shifted just because of something that's changed. On one side, someone is enjoying their new role. On the other side, the other one cannot let go of that role they were playing to. So in effect, they are finding it very difficult to cope with change because they don't have the resources to change. And as a consequence, they are controlled by things that have happened in the past or that situation. But were you born a mother? Were you born a father? Were you born a manager? Were you born whatever? No. You are playing a role and your roles can change. And that is a huge shift because that first shift will shift a lot of the baggage that we've accumulated, that we've been carrying from the past. And the moment you let go, you know, have you ever been to an airport and you see these people struggling with so much luggage and you think, why are they bringing all this luggage about? You know, and then you see others just got one small suitcase. They're just flying. They're just going from one place to another. No constraints whatsoever. So in life, we have to let go. We have to let go of the baggages of the past. Because what am I doing? I'm not appreciating the moment. I'm trying to relive the moment of the past. So one of the things that we need to do to harness sort of good habits is that we need to let go the old self. So whatever has happened, let it go. Let the past be the past, okay? So you've played the role of a mother and you're always there. You will always be a mother for those children, but also allow others to be themselves. And by allowing others to be themselves, you will have a wonderful relationship. So my habit was completely different to the way I was raised by my parents. My parents were very much controlling. It's the custom. If you're born into a sort of like the sort of countries who are based, I would say, in the tropics, it is that type of culture. You tend to have an extended family. You respect your parents, but suddenly there comes a point you want to fly out of the nest. You know, you've got to let go of the branch and fly. And so when I can let go of any roles that I'm playing, it is in that moment that I can live in the moment, not being stuck in the past. And what is the benefit of that? Well, Very simply, I'm enjoying life. I have seen from my own side how my attitude has shifted because my consciousness has shifted. And because of that, I have let go limitations. I've never had a ceiling on my life. I'm not going to say, I can only get this far and that's it. Age is not a barrier. Color is not a barrier. Gender is not a barrier. Nothing is a barrier. It's only a barrier if I say to myself, I can't do this. So one of the things that we need to harness is that there's this wonderful being that wants to break out from the old way of thinking and realize its true self. And then in that awareness, it can experience unlimited freedom. Freedom not in the sense that I can do whatever I want. No, it means I fulfill my responsibilities. I fill my obligations. There is no dereliction of duty, but I can be who I am without needing to compare or compete with others. Because in my old awareness, I was always competing. I was always comparing. And the moment you do that, there's a sense of insecurity that comes in. Insecurity in that sense, there's always someone better than you. When my parents, who had a very successful textile business, there was always a feeling of insecurity. I always had that feeling of insecurity. Why? We had everything in life. We had prestige, we had money, we had all the good things that success buys. But there was always the sense of I could lose it all. So there was in the back of the mind thinking that one day this could all go. And of course, as we know, one day does come, doesn't it? And when that one day came, I wasn't prepared. I found it very difficult to let go. Why did this happen? It should have been like this. There was an element of blaming the self, blaming the family. And it was very difficult to switch off. But the moment you have the awareness who you are, it is in that moment everything changes. For the first time, I had the awareness, yes, truly I'm an actor. And I am playing my role. And no one can play my role better than myself. So in that awareness, I stopped competing and comparing with others. The negative thoughts I had about others, in the forms of anger, in the forms of insulting or criticizing, they just went. For the first time, I accepted myself unconditionally. And in that moment, my thought pattern changed. Because I was not having any negative thoughts about myself and definitely not about other people. Because the way other people behave, that's their choice. I need to accept it. So if I accept I'm the actor playing my role, then I also need to accept others playing their roles. And I have no right, absolutely no right to tell them how they play their role. Yes, as parents, we can guide our children. We can set boundaries, but at the same time, just as you didn't like those boundaries, you wanted to go beyond, so do your children. Allow them to be themselves, but always be there for them when they need help. And this attitude that I had with our children, we have 3 children, they're all grown up now. In fact, I'm a grandfather. Yeah? I have 4 children. And the relationship that I have with our children is amazing. We're like friends. There's nothing that we find awkward. And our grandchildren is very loving. It's very warm. Why? Because there's no expectations. We're allowing others to play their roles. We're seeing them in that same consciousness that we see ourselves. So I'm seeing you as this wonderful being playing your role. And even though their roles may be different, but I'm going beyond that and seeing them, they are like me, a spiritual being. And in that awareness, amazing things happen. All the bad habits, as I said, that I acquired through the wrong consciousness shifted. Never would I have thought that I would be living the life that I'm living now. And it's a life that I love. It's not something that's been imposed on me. I am following it because it's something that I have understood and realized. So remember, I said earlier, knowledge in itself is not enough to change us. It gives us understanding, but we need power. When there's knowledge and power, then there's a successful outcome. So how do you get power? So we know we don't get power from a new job, a new relationship, a new possession, a new hairdo, because they're all temporary, aren't they? Aren't they? They are. So if I'm attaching, basing myself on something that's very temporary, then don't be surprised. The experience I have is also very temporary. So I need something that's permanent, something that's constant, something that I don't have to work hard at. There's one thing I've realized is people don't get very far if you work hard. If smart is good, work smart. Not physically pushing yourself in such a degree that you sort of wear yourselves out. No, always be smart, use your head a little bit. Have that balance in life. And so the moment you do that, you start connecting with yourself. This is the moment when you start getting that power. That power is like, a discharged battery. It starts becoming recharged, and suddenly it starts off very slowly. And you think, this feels good. Suddenly there's this wonderful feeling. And then the desires of the old way of life suddenly seem to evaporate. And then as you connect with yourself more and more, what are you doing? From a very small base, that foundation is getting stronger and stronger. And that experience gives you the power to implement all that knowledge you have acquired. So that means to change anything, that change has to start within the self. It's no good waiting for others to change. It's no good saying, well, if you change your habits, I'll change mine. If you're kind to me, I'll be kind to you. Does it work? It doesn't work. So who has to change? I have to change. So that means I need to pay attention to my thoughts. So my consciousness will lead to the type of thoughts that I create. So when I sit down, I need to have a very positive image of myself, a positive awareness. I need to have an elevated awareness. It doesn't matter what I was before. Let go of that. That was me in the wrong consciousness. Or another way you could say, that was a role that I played then, but now I have decided to play this new role, this new me. And I have let go of all the dependencies, all the supports that gave me temporary happiness, because now I'm going to just realize who I am. And by doing so, I create very powerful, peaceful thoughts. That's all it is. There's no sort of magic bullet in this. It's just having the consciousness, I am a peaceful soul. Just in that moment, you start reconnecting with your true self. And as you change your awareness, your thoughts change. And then your words change. So remember I said to you that when I was young with my mates, I used to swear. Well, the swearing went. Yeah, absolutely went. And I thought, wow. I hadn't noticed I had changed. And that's the interesting thing. I hadn't noticed I had changed, but I realized that my words were reflecting what I was truly thinking, what I was truly feeling. And then as a result of that, my actions reflected my words, which reflected my thoughts. And so I was feeling this all nice feeling. You get that nice feeling? And you think, wow, this feels good. And by practicing it more, a little bit more, what happened? It started to grow. So suddenly habits that were very difficult to sort of shifted. The anger went. You know that driving that I was talking about, where I used to get up to the backside of a car, used to flash my lights and say, get out of the way. That doesn't happen anymore. I still drive fast when I'm by myself on the motorway, but I've got patience. I didn't have patience before. I was definitely impatient. And the one thing I've learned is that situations, they always come to teach me a lesson. So I've learned that even if I flash my light, do you think that's going to change the way of the situation? No. You know, it's like when you plant a seed. It doesn't matter what you say or what you do. The seed will grow in its own time. So in the same way, when you plant a seed of pure thoughts, elevated thoughts, it will bear fruit. So the habits that were stubborn suddenly start changing. So one of the habits that I was sort of acquired, and that was probably because of my Western influence, and that was drinking alcohol. I used to go with my friends to the pubs and the nightclubs, and although I never smoked, I did drink, only with my friends. And I really didn't enjoy drinking, believe it or not, but I did it because I was with my mates. And it was a very difficult moment for me to go drinking with my friends because I didn't like the taste of alcohol. But nevertheless, it was almost like I forced myself to drink it because I didn't want to lose my sort of prestige in front of my friends. So having that experience, I'm not the role, but I'm an actor playing a role. And I went beyond that even and realized who was this actor, this spiritual being. I tapped into all these wonderful experiences, and alcohol was the immediate thing that went. I suddenly did not like going to pubs anymore. I remember in that moment but you know, it's like that, you had that light bulb moment. I had that light bulb moment, and I went with my brother-in-law who used to like going to pubs, etc. And I went for him as out of respect more than anything else. And I was been practicing this meditation for about a few months. And you know, the thing was, I was picking up such negative energy, which I never picked up before, but I could pick it up now. And I thought, I don't like this. And after that, I never went to a pub again. So habits can change. You can change anything. I don't come to myself and say, well, okay, today I'm going to change this. For me, it's never worked. What has worked is I need to pay attention to the identity of who I am. And in that awareness, I start changing the way I'm thinking, the way I'm speaking, my attitude, my small habits suddenly start becoming good habits. And as I keep repeating them, they become big habits. And that's how habits change. This is how you harness something that's very little to begin with, and the good things, it will take care of itself. You know what they say? If you look after the pennies, the pounds look after themselves. So it's paying attention to the small things in life that really has a profound effect on all of us. So the more attention I pay to myself, the easier it is for me to sort of experience the new me, or I would say the real me, not even the new me, because actually all of us, we want the same things in life, don't we? We want love, we want respect, we want happiness, we want contentment, but we think we'll find it in that external world. And maybe we do for a short while, but then once that feeling is gone, we want it again and again, and that becomes a bad habit. It's almost like an addiction. And you know, anything that's an addiction, the person doesn't have control, and the experiences get less and less. Well, the real addiction we need to have is the addiction to our true selves. And when we experience the true self, That's when the magic happens. So I've seen that my habits have changed, not because I said to myself, I want to change this. It just happened. It's very natural. You know, it's like a flower. It doesn't say, look how beautiful I am. Have you ever seen a flower competing with another flower? No, they're just themselves. And automatically they attract all the bees. The bees are drawn to them. So in the same way, when we be in our natural self, you will attract the right people. You will attract success. If you're constantly chasing, you will be forever chasing. So I've seen stop chasing and start appreciating. I was with my friend Lee once, who's an interesting character because I'd given him the meditation course some 25 years ago. And at that time, he was in the wrong crowd. You know, he was a doorman. He was a bodybuilder. So, you know, he was in that circle of friends where they did sort of a lot of crazy things. And he did the meditation course. And like me, he had an experience. And he thought, wow, this is good. And it's all free. Anyway, we were chatting one day. He says, you know, Parmjit, if you don't appreciate your cup of coffee now, and you're rushing to get to the next meeting where you're going to have a cup of coffee, you will do the same thing. You won't appreciate that next one. So he taught me a very valuable lesson. He said, appreciate what you have now, not what you don't have. So I thought, that's so true. Why am I rushing to get to the next meeting for the next coffee, which will then only means that I'll be rushing that? So one thing we learn when we're in this correct consciousness, we start appreciating. We appreciate everything and everyone in our lives. I'm appreciating myself of my good health. I'm appreciating my family. I'm appreciating my friends. I'm appreciating this country. You know, we see so much upheaval in the world, and look how stable this country is. Yes, it has its problems, but put it into context. Why? We need to appreciate this. And when we appreciate things, it appreciates in value. No longer having expectations. So I've let go of expectations. Expectations bring us down. I expect this. I expect that. I expect you to do this. I expect. Let's appreciate each other. Let's warm ourselves to everyone, irrespective of their background, and just see them as wonderful actors playing their roles. Not the gender, not the age, not whether they're rich or poor, but see them as you would like to see yourself. And in that consciousness, my whole attitude is changing. My connection with others is changing. Not from one of, oh, what's in it for me? It's one of, what can I do for you? It's like we're giving, whereas before we were taking. So good habits come when we are kind to ourselves within. And when we are kind to ourselves within, it's reflected with the outside world. I was coming from Leicester to Wembley, and I thought, okay, it takes about 2 hours to get from Leicester to London. And so I thought, allow a bit of extra time just in case. There's always just in case, isn't there? So I left at 3 o'clock, and I arrived here at 5 o'clock on the North Circular Road. And then from the North Circular Road, coming all the way to High Road on Wembley, it must have taken me about 45 minutes to travel 1 mile. It would have been quicker to sort of walk, but as it was, you just can't sort of walk away from your vehicle. So I thought to myself, this is quite okay. It's okay with me, because my habit is allow a time for the unknown. I thought, well, I could just rest somewhere and come here. But as it was, I had this thought, no, get to Wembley, then see how it goes. And as it was, it took me 45 minutes. Now, I know in the past, you know what I've been doing? Maybe you can sort of resonate with that. I've been getting very frustrated, tapping my fingers, cursing everyone. Why is this happening? Why is that happening? It was like, chill. It was like, absolutely, everything is fine. Everything is under control because I'm in control of my thoughts. I'm in control of my feelings. And as a result, everything will happen when it will happen. So one of the things that we learn is that you appreciate. And along with appreciation, also show gratitude. Say thank you. When was the last time you said thank you to someone? Don't wait for others. Just say it. And you know that has such a positive impact on others. You know, they say people remember you for not who you are, but how you made them feel. So how do you make others feel? Do you open your heart to them? Or do you close your heart? Do you have expectations? Do you have desires? Do you want something from them? Or do you give? You know, at Christmas, we always have Christmas cards ready. We always have actually blank cards ready just in case, whatever festival that comes along, whether it's happy birthday, Christmas, Diwali or Eid or whatever, I've got this sort of cards and just write happy Eid, happy Christmas. So it was Christmas Eve. We hadn't given the Christmas cards to our neighbors, and we live in a little cul-de-sac, and there's about 6 of us. So we gave the Christmas cards. Soon as we'd posted the Christmas cards, that was it. No expectations. We wanted because it was Christmas. Out of our 6 neighbors, 1 gave us a card. Were we upset? No. Why? Because there's no expectations. So if I'm giving on the basis that I want something, I'm in the wrong consciousness. So switch the consciousness and become a giver. And when you give, it is a much better feeling than actually when you're taking. So this comes with the attitude of, I'm going to give, give, and give. And the more you give, at the time of need, everything will come to you. So I have also seen at the time of need, when that traffic, when that parking space, it's there. I don't have to think about it. I'm not saying, oh, I need to get there very quickly. I need to worry. No, everything is good. And where does it start? All starts within the self. So now put yourself, what you're going through. Think about the situations that are troubling you. How can you change that situation? You know you can't change that situation at all. You can't change the weather. You can't change your neighbors. You can't change your family. You can't change anyone. But the one person you can change is yourself. So if you don't want to change, you won't change. So if you want to harness all that potential that you have within yourself, you have to take the first step. This is why courage is needed. Become fearless. Don't worry about what others think about you. You're not here to please others. You're here to be yourself. And when you're being yourself, you are being your authentic self, and people love you for who you are rather than who you're not. And because of that, your relationships will heal. Your relationships will last because you are no longer comparing. You are no longer competing. You are no longer feeling insulted by others. You are just accepting them. You are appreciating them. You are loving them. And you're saying, thank you for being my friend. I remember that. There's a song, thank you for being my friend. So be nice to yourself. Always be kind to yourself. Never put yourself down. Even if we make mistakes, let it go. And we did make mistakes. I make mistakes. I've lost count how many mistakes I've made. But you know what? Out of all those mistakes, I've always said to myself, I'm going to learn something from this. It's come to me because I need to learn something. And it can be something very small. And the moment I recognize that small lesson, that suddenly sort of makes me a better person. So last few years has been very challenging for me. I used to be in an environment, I had taken redundancy from my previous post. I used to be a manager who used to manage 6 other managers in adult education. And I've been there for about 12 years. And that was the only time I've ever worked for anyone, by the way. And I thought, okay, there's nothing more I want to extract from this, because if I went for a more senior post, it would have meant more time to that particular post. And that would have sort of interfered with my my normal life, you can say. I didn't want the local authority to own me. So when the opportunity came to take redundancy, I said, yes, I want to take redundancy. But a lot of my colleagues were very upset about this. Why? Because they were attached. They were attached to the roles. They had become dependent. For me, I always knew who I was. And I was just an actor playing a role. And once that role had finished, it was so easy to let go. And as a consequence, I always felt easy with other people. It was very easy to make decisions. You could see things so clearly because there was no attachment. There was no sort of partiality towards anyone. It was absolutely being impartial. This is like, you know, like the sun, you're just giving. You don't say, oh, I'm going to give more light to Leicester and less to Wembley. No, it doesn't work like that. You give equally. So I found that the more I gave, the more I detached myself from the external world, the more I realized I found real happiness, real contentment. And in doing so, all the habits changed. I mean, it's amazing what's happened. And since then, I thought, okay, I'm doing well. Yeah? I'm surrounded by people who are like-minded. But then I realized that it was okay, but I'm not pushing myself. I'm not challenging myself. You know, it's like everyone's so polite, so kind, and it's great. But I want to be challenged. And you know who challenges us the most? We do. So I needed to know what more I could learn about myself. So I started my own construction company. And in doing so, I had to subcontract. I need to work with clients. And boy, oh boy, it revealed a side of me that I would have never known had I just stayed in my little comfort zone. And for the last few years, I think I faced more examinations than ever before. It is like I'm having examinations from several fronts. It's like, you know, people talk about war. They have several fronts. Well, I was having everywhere. But even with all of those things, I've realized I can cope. I could not have definitely coped with that before because I was in the wrong consciousness. So I've realized, don't be afraid to push the boat out. Don't just rest on your laurels thinking, well, I've reached this age, I can do no more. Don't do that. Have an unlimited attitude about yourself. You can do amazing things, okay? There is never a time to say, you know, I can't do it. You can do it. If you want to do it, you'll do it. So I've learned a lot about myself in the last few years. And I know that whatever I'm going through, it's made me stronger. And because it's made me stronger, it's made me realize all those very stubborn habits that I thought I had conquered, they were still within me. And because I was put in that situation, those stubborn habits have confronted me in such a way that I have had no choice but to look within myself. Why am I feeling like this? Why has this happened? So one of the things that will help us, empowering us, is to look inwards, examine the self. This is where we need to be honest, we need to be courageous, we need to be fearless. Remember, I'm not here to change the world. I would be wasting my time. I can't change that siren. I can't stop the trains going by. But what I can do, I can stop the noise that's happening inside here. I can respond of my own choosing. And as I remain stable in a very chaotic world, it's a sign that I'm beginning to change my habits in such a way that they will actually influence others. So one of the things we learn by changing our small habits, which then becomes a permanent part of our attitude and our character, it has a positive influence on others. So whereas before I was being influenced by others, now I'm being an influencer. So my attitude, my feelings is having a positive impact on my family, on my grandchildren. I have a wonderful relation with grandchildren. Never got angry with them once. May have done with the children, been stern with them, but not with the grandchildren. Why? Because the more I pay attention to myself, the more I'm filling myself with those unlimited attainments of peace, happiness, bliss, love, contentment, truth. And as I experience that, I feel that no matter what happens out there, nothing can shake me. And where has it started? All with this simple consciousness: I am a soul. I am this being of light. And such a small thing has had such a profound effect on everything around me. It's had a positive impact on nature. Now you think, well, how can you control nature? Recently, we've had a lot of extreme weather. And just a few weeks ago, we had a lot of rain. And in Leicester, a lot of the county was flooded. And I went that morning, this particular morning, to open the centre. I opened the centre pretty early in the morning, and I noticed there was water sort of flowing in the middle of the road. I thought it was a burst water pipe, and I actually phoned Severn Trent, our local water authority, and I said, I think there's a water leak, and they said they'll look into it. And of course, what had happened was the drains were couldn't cope with the excess rain, and the drains were full, and so the water level kept rising. So I opened up the centre, absolutely dry, but the main road was flooded. Opened the gates to the car park, then opened the entrance to our meditation centre in Leicester, and then this was about, as I say, pretty early in the morning, and by the time it was 5 o'clock in the morning, the water had reached to our gates, and we had become like an island. There was water all around us. And I thought, even though this is happening, it's not affecting me emotionally in a negative way. I'm sort of quite calm about the situation. I know this is all happening because of a certain reason, but what I need to do is I need to have good wishes for nature. And of course, by the time we left our sort of morning classes, it was 7 o'clock, and the only way you could get out was by being in your car with the doors firmly closed, because otherwise it would have come inside to the car. And for about 200 meters, I had to wade through a small ford, which would normally be a normal road. And I'm thinking, it's so wonderful that when you're nice to nature, nature is also nice to you. It could have been a lot worse. So this is what happens, is that when we harness all of these small things inside of us in the right way, it has a positive impact on the wider world. So when you need that help, it will come. Why? Because you always helped others. You don't have to ask. You don't have to wait. It will come. It always does. So it all starts with the self. Be kind to yourself. Accept yourself unconditionally. Don't get caught up in the past. Let go of the past. See, when I did the meditation, I immediately had closure. Closure to the past, instantly, just like that. It's a close the book. And a new chapter had opened in my life. So all of you have this wonderful opportunity to change. And that change will happen when you want it to happen. So appreciate the things in your life. Don't complain. Because if you complain, you will be forever complaining. And when you start appreciating things, everything will appreciate you as well. All of you have got some amazing stories. And why? It's because you are amazing beings. So be that amazing being. Okay? Om Shanti. Okay. You know, knowledge is good. Everything is good. You can go on the internet nowadays, you can find anything. But I tell you one thing. There's one thing the internet cannot give you, and that is power. And that power you have to take. You have to experiment. You have to explore. Acha. Shall we explore? Shall we explore that power? Yes, definitely. Why not? So the first thing you got to do is you have to let go of everything that you're holding on to, something physically or mentally. You need to let go right this moment and sit comfortably. You know, your body has to be very relaxed. Yeah? 2 feet on the floor. Keeping your back upright. Just inhale very slowly. Now exhale very slowly. Now breathe very normally. And turn all your attention inwards. Let go of the day. Let go of things that were done, words that were spoken. Just come into the awareness. I am an amazing being. I see myself like a tiny star, sparkling like a diamond in the center of this forehead. How amazing am I? I am this light, this living being, sitting in this costume, the body. It is I, the soul, that is this point of light. I am the one that creates thoughts. I am the one that experiences through these physical organs. And I look within myself. And I see the beauty of the self. I am decorated with the treasures of virtues. I have an abundance of peace. I am overflowing with love. I am exploding with happiness. I am so happy knowing who I am. I am at this point of light, this peaceful soul. My light can never be extinguished. And now it shines brightly, more so than ever before. And I appreciate who I am. I accept myself unconditionally. I sit here on my throne of self-respect, silent, peaceful, very secure. There is nothing I need. I have everything within me. I am overflowing with these attainments, and I share these attainments with the whole world. I am a benevolent soul. I am constantly giving, and my attainments never run out. The more I give, the more I receive. I lose myself in this experience of silence. This is who I am. This is the real me. A peaceful soul. A point of light. Om Shanti. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Parmjit, for the very wonderful talk and all the tools and tips given. Before we go, a few announcements. Next week, same time, same place, and the topic is inner tranquility. Also, we have reflective meditations every Mondays and Thursdays, 7 to 7:30 p.m., which is you can join in house or online. And also we do have a Sunday morning meditation, so which is every Sunday, and the timing for that is 10 to 10:45 in the morning. So, and that's only online, so everybody's welcome to join. So once again, thank you very much for joining us, and have a safe journey back home. Thank you.